Why do some leaders win global respect, while others sound like they're just reacting? In a crisis, words can unite a nation, or leave people confused and bitter. Join us as we break down how leaders communicate in moments of crisis, what makes some sound credible and others forgettable. Because in politics, how you speak can matter just as much as what you stand for. We'll start with a surprising example. When the US imposed tariffs and shocked the world, a small country's leader, Singapore's Lawrence Wong, explained what was happening so clearly, even YouTube commenters from around the world praised him. His style of communication crossed borders. But clarity alone isn't always enough. We'll see how Wong has combined explanation with emotional resonance to build trust, not just understanding. Whatever your politics, if you've ever wanted to speak like a leader people trust, even in a crisis, this breakdown is for you.
It marks a seismic change in the global order. The era of rules-based globalization and free trade is over. We are entering a new phase, one that is more arbitrary, protectionist, and dangerous.
He starts by interpreting the change, and if it wasn't crystal clear, he compares the before and after.
For decades, the US was the bedrock for the free market economies of the world. It championed free trade and led efforts to build a multilateral trading system, anchored by clear rules and norms, where countries could achieve win-win benefits through trade. This WTO system brought unprecedented stability and prosperity to the world, and to the US itself. To be clear, the system is not perfect. Singapore and many others have long called for reform, to update the rules and to make the system better. But what the US is doing now is not reform. It is abandoning the entire system it had created. Its new approach of reciprocal tariffs, country by country, is a complete rejection of the WTO framework. The US has placed Singapore in the lowest base tier with a tariff of 10%. So the direct impact on us may be limited for now, but there are wider and more profound consequences. If other countries adopt the same approach as the US,
Wong makes you feel like he understands what's happening, and more importantly, like you do too. Let's compare this to how another Prime Minister reacted.
And clearly there will be an economic impact from the decisions that the US has taken.
What impact? Why? Does he really understand what's going on? And Wong sets expectations for what's to come.
but we must be clear-eyed about the dangers that are building up in the world. Global institutions are getting weaker. International norms are eroding. More and more countries will act based on narrow self-interest and use force or pressure to get their way.
And then, he explains concretely why disaster could erupt.
The last time the world experienced something like this was in the 1930s. Trade wars escalated into armed conflict and eventually the Second World War.
It adds to the weight and seriousness of the message. After showing that he understands the terrain and explaining it to us, Wong articulates a strategy.
Singapore has decided not to impose retaliatory tariffs. We will build up our capabilities. We will strengthen our network of partnerships with like-minded countries.
Compare this with Starmer.
I have instructed my team to move further and faster on the changes I believe will make our economy stronger and more resilient.
What changes? Without details, he doesn't seem as well prepared as Wong. Finally, Wong talks about national strength and unity.
We are more ready than many other countries with our reserves, our cohesion, and our resolve.
This boosts national confidence while reinforcing collective identity. Wong comes across as a leader, in fact, almost like a general briefing his troops. In May's election, some politicians asked Singaporeans to vote along religious lines. What did Wong say?
Mixing politics with religion is unacceptable in Singapore. We have always taken a firm stance against this. First, it fractures the common space we share as Singaporeans. Second, once elections become contests of faith, all communities in our society will end up worse off. Third, external powers will seek to exploit these fault lines to advance their own agendas. And as we have already seen, these challenges and threats are very real.
Second, he defended unity without erasing diversity.
Now, this does not mean that we cannot engage and address the needs of our different communities, or even talk about race and religion. I myself make a point to engage these different communities. I know it's harder for our minority groups, as it is in any multiracial society, and I'm grateful for their efforts in upholding our social compact in Singapore. The engagements I do help the government to better understand the concerns and needs of our diverse communities so that we can address concerns and issues in a way that expands our common ground and strengthens our society.
Wong also elevated the conversation over partisan politics.
So I call on all political parties to make their positions clear on this matter. This is not a partisan or party matter. This is a matter of national importance. In particular, I invite the leaders of all political parties to make their stand clear, not just on foreign interference, but on two fundamental principles. First, that identity politics has no place in Singapore. Second, that we should never mix religion and politics. At the end of the day, whatever our differences, we are all Singaporeans first and foremost.
Wong didn't use the moment to score political points. Even though he was in the middle of an election campaign, a time when most politicians sharpen their knives, Wong put them away. Instead, he called for a united front across all political parties. Many citizens worldwide are tired of partisan bickering. So when they hear a leader put national interest above party interest, it resonates with them, especially when they sound measured, rational, and composed, which reflects maturity and seriousness. But Wong's biggest strength, his rationality and composure, can sometimes be a weakness, especially when it comes to cost of living issues. Take two videos he released just weeks apart. The first video explained the broader global forces behind inflation, why prices were rising, and why the GST had to go up.
I know that for many Singaporeans, the biggest concern is the cost of living, and understandably so. Prices have gone up and it's tough for many families. Some wonder if the GST increase had made things worse. But let's be honest, the reality is that what we are facing goes far beyond the GST. We knew that healthcare spending was rising year after year and would continue to increase because of our rapidly aging population. So it wasn't an easy choice, but we had to act responsibly. That's why when the economy showed signs of stabilizing, we decided to proceed with the GST increase.
The second video focused on how the government was helping Singaporeans cope, offering concrete support measures for everyday families.
A typical family of 4 with 2 young children can receive around $5,000 in support this financial year. We are also monitoring the situation closely, and if conditions worsen, we will step up the support.
On paper, both were reasonable. But the emotional impact was totally different, because the purpose of each video was different. One was trying to explain, the other was trying to help. And that's the key lesson. In a crisis, even the right message can fall flat if it doesn't match what people emotionally need. The lesson is similar to what Obama learned.
The most effective debate answers, it seemed, were designed not to illuminate, but to evoke an emotion, or identify the enemy, or signal to a constituency that you, more than anyone else on that stage, were and would always be on their side. Whether I liked it or not, people were moved by emotion, not facts.
In fact, in the last US election, Kamala Harris' team experimented with almost 5,000 ads. One of the most effective ads did all three things Obama said.
I get it. The cost of rent, groceries, and utilities is too high. So here's what we're going to do about it. We will lower housing costs by building more homes and crack down on landlords who are charging too much. We will lower your food and grocery bills by going after price gougers who are keeping the cost of everyday goods too high.
How does she acknowledge pain? In the simplest way possible. Then she says exactly what's on people's minds. I feel like she's on my side, and it avoids whose fault is it arguments. The biggest problem with Kamala's ad? It didn't reach enough Trump supporters. Even the most effective message can't move people who never hear it. Sometimes, it's better to tell people about the mountain they're facing. Sometimes, it's better to tell people how you will pull them out of the snow. Lawrence Wong's journey shows us all that good communication isn't about being flashy. It's about being clear, calm, and caring. And that's something any of us can learn. So here's the big idea. Find out how people feel and provide them with what they need. When people are confused, they need clarity. When they are hurting, they need solutions. Don't just explain the problem. Show them the way out. And above all, don't just sound right. Sound like you're on their side. Thanks for watching.